My name is Claire, I'm 34, and I've been holding this ache in my chest for a long time, long enough that it started to feel like a part of my anatomy. Like a rib I didn't know I had until it started cracking under pressure. When my parents sent that message, the one that said, "We think it's best you step away for now," I was sitting on the couch beside the man I've loved for 12 years. Kevin was scrolling on his phone, his thigh barely brushing mine, and I remember the silence between us felt louder than any shouting ever could. I stared at the message, rereading it, as if the more I read it, the less it would sting. And then I looked over at Kevin and realized something that twisted my stomach in a way I still haven't recovered from. I didn't feel like telling him. That's when I knew. Really knew. Not just that something was wrong, but that I was gone. Kevin and I met the way people do when they're still hopeful and half-drunk, at a friend's housewarming party in Minneapolis. I was 22, studying for my master's in counseling. He was a graphic designer, already out of school and already deeply sure of who he was. That confidence, that stillness in him, it wrapped around me like a warm coat in a drafty room. We were inseparable from the start. The kind of couple that other people quietly hated for being too into each other. We'd cook together barefoot in my tiny apartment kitchen. Kiss like the world was ending. Fall asleep in tangled knots. I remember the way he used to touch my face before kissing me, like he needed to memorize me again and again. I felt seen in a way I hadn't even known I needed. The sex was electric, not just the physical part, but the way we talked after. Sweaty and laughing, forehead to forehead, making plans for a future that felt big and good in ours. But the thing no one tells you about falling in love is that it's not the fall that breaks you. It's the quiet moments after, the ones where you start to notice you're always the one reaching first. We bought a house together 5 years ago. A fixer-upper in St. Paul, white siding and a creaky porch. I painted the hallway blue. He built the bookshelves. We made it ours. But I started to feel it slipping, little by little, in the spaces between the things we built. It started with the way he'd kiss me goodbye in the morning, light, distracted, already halfway out the door. I'd try to hold his hand in the grocery store, and he'd pretend not to notice. Or maybe he did notice and didn't know what to do with the need in me. I'd reach for him in bed, just to feel skin, something alive, and he'd roll away, mumble something about an early meeting, his breath warm but already distant. I tried not to take it personally. I told myself we were just tired. That real love isn't a constant blaze. That life gets busy and complicated and heavy. But there's a difference between comfort and disconnection, and I kept confusing the two. Sometimes, he'd pull me into a hug that felt more like a pat-down. Or he'd kiss me at a family gathering and I'd wonder if it was out of affection or obligation. You learn to read between the lines when the words stop meaning anything. And then came the message from my parents. They'd seen how often I skipped family dinners. How my voice flattened when I spoke. How I stopped bringing Kevin around even though I still told them we were fine. I guess it wasn't subtle anymore. They didn't say it outright, but I think they meant, "You've changed. You're disappearing. We don't know how to help you anymore." The message was cold and loving in the same breath. "We think it's best you step away for now." From them. From the noise. Maybe from Kevin, too, though they didn't say it out loud. And sitting beside him, I realized I didn't want to show him the message because I didn't trust he'd care. Not really. Not in the way I wanted him to. Not in the way he used to. I remember setting my phone down slowly, turning to him, watching the way the glow of the screen lit up his cheekbone, but not his eyes. And then I whispered, not even meaning to say it out loud, "I don't think I'm okay." He didn't hear me. Or maybe he did and chose silence. That was the moment. The exact one. Not the kiss that went nowhere. Not the nights of cold backs and hollow moans. Not the growing pile of maybe tomorrow-s. It was realizing I couldn't even tell him I was breaking, and that part of me already knew he wouldn't catch me if I fell. Kevin is a paramedic. He works 12-hour shifts that often turn into 16. Some nights he comes home with blood on his sleeves and doesn't say a word. Other nights, he crashes into bed and clutches me like I'm the anchor keeping him from slipping under. I used to take comfort in that. In being needed. In being the person he landed with after seeing so much pain. But lately, I wonder if he only holds me because I'm there, not because he sees me. Last Tuesday, he came home early, which almost never happens. I was folding laundry in the living room, the kind of mindless chore that's become my emotional sedative, when I heard the front door open. I half expected him to text me that he was staying for another shift. Instead, he appeared in the doorway with that crooked smile I used to adore. "Hey, babe," he said, shrugging off his jacket and crossing the room. Before I could even react, he pulled me into him, strong hands at my waist, lips pressing firmly against mine. It was the kind of kiss I used to melt into. But this time, it felt off. Not wrong, just mismatched. Like he was reading from a script he hadn't updated in years. I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in either. He noticed. "You okay?" he asked, brow furrowing. "I'm fine," I lied, like I always do. He grinned again, trying to lighten the moment. "Maybe I'm just rusty. Want to come upstairs? I've got a solid hour before I crash." I blinked. That used to be all I needed to hear. One sentence, and I'd be halfway out of my clothes, tugging him by the belt loop. But now? I just shook my head. "I have a headache." His smile dropped, just a flicker. "Okay, sure. Later then." He turned and headed upstairs. I watched him go, heart twisting. I wanted to want him. I wanted to feel what I used to, that hot rush of need, that safe glow of being desired. But lately, his touch just feels like pressure. Like he's trying to solve me with his hands, when what I need is for him to sit still and listen. After he disappeared, I sat back down with the laundry and folded one shirt at a time until my fingers felt numb. The next day, he tried again, in a different way. He came home with Thai food and a bottle of wine, which sounds small, but it was his version of a grand gesture. He rarely thinks to plan things. His life is dictated by emergency calls and trauma codes, not date nights and candles. We ate in the kitchen, and for a few minutes, it almost felt easy. He asked about my work, about my cousin's baby shower. I answered in half-truths, careful not to let the conversation dip too deep. But then, as we were washing dishes together, me rinsing, him stacking, I said, casually, "My mom texted." My aunt replied to that group message. He looked up. "About what?" I swallowed. "You didn't see it?" "No," he said, drying his hands. "I don't think I was in the group." Right. Of course he wasn't. I hadn't added him. Another omission. Another little fracture I couldn't bring myself to acknowledge. "She said they're overreacting," I said. My aunt. "She said it was dramatic and condescending." Kevin raised an eyebrow. "Do you think it was dramatic?" I hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not." He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "Is this about us? Are you pulling away?" The question caught me off guard, even though I should have seen it coming. "No," I said quickly. Too quickly. "It's not just about us. I've been feeling off. Like I'm underwater most days. Claire, you know you can talk to me, right?" I laughed softly, not because it was funny, but because it felt so ironic. "Can I?" He moved toward me then, brushing a damp strand of hair from my face. "I may not be good with words, but I'm trying." "I know you are." And I meant it. He was trying in the ways he knew how. Showing up with food. Pulling me close. Keeping me warm at night. But it wasn't reaching me, not really. It's like we're on different frequencies. He's trying to fix what's visible, the silence, the lack of sex, the tension in the room, but he's missing the part of me that's gone quiet. I want him to ask the harder questions. I want him to see that I'm grieving something I can't name. I want him to stop trying to kiss it better and instead sit in the mess with me. He kissed my forehead that night. Held me for a long time in bed. I let him. I even curled into him for warmth. But my body felt stiff, like I was performing a version of intimacy I'd memorized but no longer felt. Somewhere between the quiet mornings and the urgent touches, I lost the bridge between his love and my need. And neither of us knows how to build it back. On Saturday, Kevin made pancakes. He used to only cook eggs. Scrambled, always too dry. But this time, he followed some online recipe, added blueberries like he remembered I liked them. He even plated them with this crooked little smile like, "See? I can be thoughtful." "I remembered," he said, sliding the plate in front of me. "You used to eat these every Sunday morning when we first moved in." I smiled, small and polite, like someone accepting a gift they didn't ask for. He leaned down to kiss my temple. I let him. And then, as I was reaching for the syrup, he smacked my ass. Light, playful, something he's done 100 times. But this time, my whole body went rigid. He didn't notice. He just grinned and went back to the stove. I sat there, stiff as a board, chewing blueberry pancakes that tasted like guilt. It's not that I didn't love him. It's not that I didn't want affection. It's that everything lately felt loaded, like each gesture came with a subtext I wasn't ready to decode. I caught myself watching him that morning, studying the way his forearms flexed when he flipped a pancake, how his t-shirt clung to his back. I still found him attractive. I still felt flashes of something, desire, maybe, or nostalgia, but it came with a wave of resentment so strong I nearly choked on it. Because I didn't know how to respond anymore. Because I felt like I was failing him. Because I wanted to want him, and I didn't. Later that afternoon, I was sitting on the couch scrolling mindlessly when he came up behind me and rested his hands on my shoulders. I stiffened again. Not visibly, I don't think, but enough for me to feel it. "You okay?" he murmured into my ear. "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice even. "You've been quiet all day." I wanted to say, "I've been quiet all month." He started to knead my shoulders. Gently, then deeper, like he was trying to work something loose in me. My body should have relaxed. It didn't. I felt his breath near my neck, his fingers trailing down my arms. Warm. Familiar. Foreign. I sat perfectly still. I didn't lean into it. I didn't pull away. But inside, I was already shrinking. He moved to sit beside me and tugged me gently into his lap. My legs draped over his thighs, like muscle memory. He cupped my face in both hands and looked at me, really looked. "I miss you," he said, voice quiet. I felt my throat tighten. "I'm right here," I whispered. "You're not, though." He leaned in for a kiss, slow, searching. I let our lips touch, but it was like kissing through glass. His mouth moved, his hand slid down my back, and my stomach turned in on itself. I wanted to want it. God, I wanted to want it. But all I could think about was how long until this turned into something more, how every small kiss, every back rub, every hand on my hip was a prelude to sex. Not because he was pushing, not in a gross way, but because that's how he knew how to connect. That's how he felt close. And I used to feel it too. But now? Now I was hyper-aware of every touch, every intention, every shift in his breath. When his hand grazed under my shirt, I pulled away gently, but firmly enough that he noticed. He sat back, eyes searching mine. "What's going on, Claire?" "I don't know," I lied, even though I did. I stood up, heart pounding, and walked to the sink. Pretended to rinse a cup just to have something to do with my hands. Behind me, he was silent. And all I could hear was my own mind, screaming the one thing I couldn't say out loud. It happened during dinner at his sister's place. We were seated at a long wooden table under soft pendant lights, the kind that are supposed to make everything feel warm and safe. His niece had just started kindergarten, and everyone was laughing about something she said. I didn't catch it. I was busy pushing roasted carrots around my plate, trying to ignore the tightness in my chest. Kevin reached under the table and rested his hand on my thigh. Casual. Familiar. But I froze. Again. He squeezed gently. "You okay?" he murmured. I nodded. I smiled. I lied. But it was a brittle smile. And when his hand slid just slightly higher, nothing sexual, just a reflex, I felt it. That surge of panic. That wave of anger I'd been trying to swallow for weeks. I flinched. He pulled back, startled. His sister glanced over, her wine glass paused midair. Kevin furrowed his brow, but said nothing. After dinner, while everyone was in the kitchen clearing plates, Kevin caught my arm and pulled me aside, gently, but insistent. "What's going on with you?" he asked. His voice was low, but I could hear the edge. "Nothing," I said, too fast. "Claire," he sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. "You haven't touched me in weeks. You won't even look at me when I kiss you." My heart was racing. I could hear the clatter of dishes, the hum of soft music in the other room, and the pounding in my chest. I tried to keep my voice steady. "I'm just overwhelmed. Work. Life. My parents. I paused. That message they sent? You didn't even ask about it. He blinked. I did. I asked if it was about us and you said no. Because I didn't want to talk about it. My voice was rising now, the cracks showing. Then how the hell am I supposed to know what's going on with you, Claire? I don't know. I snapped. Maybe just see me. Maybe stop treating every touch like it's a warm-up act. Maybe ask how I'm doing without trying to fix it with your hands. He took a step back, stung. You think I only touch you because I want sex? I don't know what you want anymore, Kevin. Half the time I feel like I'm just a body you come home to. Something to collapse next to. That's not fair, he said quietly. And I broke. Neither is feeling alone next to someone who says they love you, I said. Neither is pretending I'm okay when I'm unraveling in front of you and you're too tired or too busy to notice. He opened his mouth, then closed it. For a moment, we just stood there. His sister walked by with a stack of plates and gave us a tight smile, the kind that said not here. Not now. So we left. Early. Silent. In the car, the silence was unbearable. I stared out the window. The houses passed in blurs of porch lights and tree branches. Kevin didn't touch the radio. Didn't speak. His jaw was tight. One hand on the wheel, the other drumming restlessly on his thigh. I finally broke the silence, voice small. I'm sorry I embarrassed you. He didn't look at me. That's not what I'm upset about. What are you upset about? His knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. That I don't know how to help you. That you won't let me. That you're slipping away and I can't seem to reach you. I closed my eyes. I don't want to pull away, I whispered. Then don't, he said. Talk to me. Tell me what you need. I shook my head. I don't even know anymore. When we got home, he went upstairs without a word. I stayed in the kitchen, pacing like a ghost. And that's when the guilt came, heavy and choking. Because the truth is, he was trying. Maybe not the way I needed, but he wasn't cruel. He wasn't cold. He brought me pancakes. He kissed my forehead. He rubbed my shoulders when he thought I was just tense. But I needed more than comfort. I needed connection. I needed to feel seen emotionally, not just physically. And I didn't know how to ask for that without sounding ungrateful. So I paced, and I cried, and I thought of that message from my parents. We think it's best you step away for now. And for the first time, I realized they weren't just talking about them. They were talking about him. About us. About the version of me I'd become in this house, in this relationship, quiet, tense, aching for something I couldn't name. I curled up on the couch and buried my face in a pillow, my whole body shaking. And the question that kept looping in my mind, hot and guilty and true, was this: it's been 19 days since the fight at his sister's. I've counted. Not because I'm holding a grudge, but because silence has a way of making time feel sharp and deliberate. We still live in the same house. We still sleep in the same bed. But now we move around each other like furniture, necessary, present, but untouched. I refill the coffee pot. He takes it without a word. He folds his laundry. I don't ask if he wants help. We speak in logistics. Do you need the car Thursday? Or the insurance bill came in. No more casual touches. No more neck kisses. No more late-night brushing of knees beneath blankets. And the strangest part? I miss him. I miss us. But I don't know how to reach for him without reopening everything. The morning after the fight, I half expected him to wake up angry. But he wasn't. He just looked tired. Tired in a way I hadn't seen before, like something in him had sagged inward. He kissed my cheek before work, out of habit, but it didn't land. He hasn't tried again since. He doesn't come home early anymore. Doesn't bring Thai food. He spends more time at the station, picking up extra shifts. He's been walking the dog longer, too. I watch from the window sometimes, mug of tea clutched in both hands, as he throws the ball down the street with a mechanical rhythm. One arm swinging, then dropping to his side, his body still. I want to call out to him. But what would I say? I'm sorry I made you feel unwanted? I'm sorry I broke your trust by withholding pieces of myself? I keep playing our last conversation over and over in my mind, the tightness in his voice, the way his eyes searched mine like he was hoping to find the version of me that used to reach back. I hadn't seen how much he was hurting until I stopped long enough to look. Kevin is not a villain. He never has been. He just loves in a way that's rooted in action. in showing up, in carrying weight without complaint. I think somewhere along the way, I stopped recognizing that as love because I craved words, softness, stillness. And when I didn't get that, I assumed I was unloved. But he's been here, all along, carrying my quiet pain, not understanding it, but staying anyway. Last night, I came down to find him asleep on the couch, still in his work uniform. His hand was resting on his chest, and his brows were furrowed even in sleep. I sat across from him and just looked at him. The dark circles under his eyes, the curve of his jaw, the small scar near his left eyebrow from a bike accident when he was 10. I used to trace it with my thumb, right before kissing him goodnight. He stirred. His eyes fluttered open, blurry and soft. "Hey," he murmured. "Hey," I whispered back. He blinked at me. I waited for him to say more, but he didn't. Just sat up slowly and rubbed his face. I thought he might reach for me. Instead, he stood and went upstairs without another word. And I sat there, feeling the ache of all the things we weren't saying. This morning, I opened my parents' message again. I hadn't looked at it since that night. "We think it's best you step away for now." I think, for a while, I misunderstood what they meant. I thought they were asking me to pull back from him, from the mess. But maybe what they were really saying was, pause. Step back. See things clearly. And now, for the first time in months, I do. I see Kevin, and how hard he's been trying in the only ways he knows how. I see myself, resentful, defensive, too afraid to say, "I need you differently." And I see the gap between us, wide, but maybe not unbridgeable. I'm not sure if love is enough. I don't know if our rhythms can sync again, or if I'll ever feel safe in his touch the way I used to. But I know I miss him. I miss him in stupid ways. I miss the way he used to squeeze my knee when he thought something was funny before he said it. I miss the way he always overcooked pasta. I miss the weight of his hand resting on my back when we walked into a room together. And I miss the version of me who used to melt into all of that without thinking. So now, I'm standing at the edge of the bedroom, watching him sleep again. The early morning light is casting soft shadows on his cheek. He looks peaceful, but worn. I want to wake him up. I want to tell him I'm sorry. I want to tell him I still love him, even if I forgot how to show it. But I'm scared. Because if I try again, really try, I'll have to lay everything bare. And there's no guarantee he'll reach back. Still, I step forward. Just one foot. Maybe that's enough for now. I did wake him. It was still barely light out, that soft, hushed hour when even the walls seemed to hold their breath. I stood at the edge of our bed, heart pounding, stomach sick with everything I wanted to say and everything I was afraid of hearing. "Kevin," I whispered. He stirred, groggy, blinked a few times, then sat up halfway, propping himself on one elbow. His voice was raspy with sleep. "Claire? What's wrong?" I hesitated, then sat beside him on the edge of the bed, careful not to look directly at him. "I need to talk to you," I said. He didn't respond right away, just waited. A flicker of something passed across his face, weariness, maybe. Bracing himself. Preparing for more damage. I took a breath so deep it hurt. "I'm sorry," I began. "I'm sorry for making you feel like you weren't enough. For shutting down instead of saying what I needed." Kevin stayed quiet. Not cold, just listening. "I've been angry," I continued. "And sad. And lost in ways I didn't know how to explain. I think I stopped trusting that I could be held without being expected to give something in return. And that's not your fault." He finally spoke, voice quiet. "I didn't know. I thought you just didn't want me anymore. I didn't even know if I wanted me anymore," I admitted. "It wasn't about you. It was everything. The way we stopped seeing each other. Or maybe the way I started disappearing before you had the chance to notice." He let out a long breath, then shifted to sit beside me fully, legs over the edge of the bed, our shoulders barely brushing. The space between us was filled with something thick and unsaid. "I kept thinking," he said, "if I just held you tighter, kissed you more, stayed close enough, you'd come back." I looked down at my hands. "I know." And all I felt was pressure. Like I was supposed to perform something I couldn't feel anymore. "I wasn't trying to push you," he said. "I know," I whispered. "That's what made it harder." The room was silent again. The early light stretched across the hardwood floors, spilling into the quiet like a slow tide. He reached over and rested a hand on my back. Just gently. Not possessive. Not asking. Just there. "I miss you too," he said. "Every day." That's when the tears came. Not dramatic, just a slow, steady leak I couldn't hold back anymore. "I wanted us to work so badly," I said through the lump in my throat. "But I think we broke something we don't know how to fix." He nodded, eyes rimmed red but dry. "I feel that too." We sat like that for a long time, his hand still resting between my shoulder blades. My tears quiet, his silence full of things he was trying not to say. Eventually, he turned toward me and wrapped both arms around my body, pulling me into him. I let him. I let myself fold into the warmth I once ran to without hesitation. And for a few minutes, we just held each other like nothing was broken. Like maybe it was still 2016, and we were tipsy on red wine in our first house with the walls half-painted and no furniture. But then we pulled apart, and the space between us felt honest. "What do we do now?" he asked, voice low. I shook my head. "I don't know. But I think we need space. Not silence. Just space. Real space. To figure out who we are without trying to be everything to each other." He didn't argue. He just nodded. "I love you," I said. "That hasn't changed." "I love you too," he said, voice cracking. We didn't say goodbye that day. We didn't make some grand plan. But that afternoon, I packed a few things, not in anger, not in punishment, and went to stay with my aunt. The same aunt who called my parents out for their message. The only one who didn't flinch when I started to fall apart. Kevin helped me carry my bag to the car. He kissed my forehead before I got in. Just once. Soft. Sad. That night, he slept on the couch. Alone. I know because I left my book on the nightstand and came back after dark to get it. I didn't go in. I just saw him curled up under that old gray throw blanket, the TV still on, flickering shadows across his face. His eyes were closed, but his hand was resting in the space beside him. Open. Like he still hoped something would fill it. Some endings don't come with slamming doors or bitter words. Some endings are quiet. Careful. Some endings are just two people finally saying, "I can't keep holding you if it means losing myself." And, sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for someone is to let go. You know, I used to think love was just about finding someone who stayed. That if a person didn't leave, if they showed up, if they came home, if they kissed you goodnight, then it meant you were safe. That the relationship was working. That the love was still alive. But I've learned that staying isn't the same thing as seeing. And touch isn't the same thing as knowing. Kevin stayed. He stayed through my silence. Through the heaviness I didn't have the words to name. He showed up with coffee, kissed my forehead in the morning, rubbed my shoulders when he thought I was just tense. He was never cruel. Never unkind. But I felt alone anyway. And for the longest time, I couldn't understand why. I used to think I was broken. That maybe I'd just outgrown desire, or turned cold, or forgotten how to be close to someone. But the truth is, I hadn't stopped wanting connection, I had just stopped knowing how to find it with him. Because we were both trying to give love in the only ways we knew how, and neither of us realized we were speaking different languages. He thought physical closeness would pull me back. I needed emotional safety before I could even begin to feel my body again. There's this quiet grief that comes when you love someone deeply, but the shape of that love no longer fits. You can't blame them. You can't blame yourself. But it still hurts like hell. I think the hardest part wasn't the silence or the sexlessness or the arguments that never quite exploded. It was the in-between. The waiting for him to ask the right question. The hoping I could feel something when he touched me. The guilt that crept in every time I flinched and didn't know why. I wanted him to notice I was unraveling. And he did. But he kept reaching for me like I was the same person I used to be. And I kept pretending I could be. It took walking away to understand that love doesn't always mean holding on tighter. Sometimes, love is sitting with the truth that something has shifted and having the courage to let it. Kevin wasn't the villain. He was just a man who tried his best with the tools he had. And I was a woman who needed more than I knew how to ask for. And I do still love him. God, I love him in the quietest, most aching way. The way you love someone who taught you what home can feel like, and also what it feels like to lose yourself inside it. What I've learned is this: desire without emotional intimacy feels hollow. And emotional intimacy without desire feels like friendship. But the thing I'm really chasing, the thing I think we're all chasing, is the place where those two things meet. Where you can be held and still feel free. Where someone touches you, not just out of habit, but because they really see you in that moment. And you want to be touched. Not out of obligation, but out of that deep, internal yes. That's what I'm learning to give myself now. Space. Stillness. Clarity. I don't know what will happen with Kevin. We still text sometimes. He asked if I needed anything from the house. I told him to keep the mug I always used, the one with the chip on the rim. He said he already was. I don't know if we'll find our way back to each other, or if this was our ending. But I know that I'm not waiting anymore for someone to rescue me from my own silence. I'm learning to speak. To say, I'm overwhelmed. I don't want to be touched right now. I need you to ask, not assume. I love you, but I need to love myself louder. There's nothing shameful about needing more. There's nothing selfish about saying this isn't working for me anymore. I used to be afraid that saying those things would mean the end of everything. But now I know, sometimes, they're the beginning. So if you're listening to this, if you're sitting in your car with your hands clenched in your lap, or lying in bed next to someone who doesn't see the storm in your chest, I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me sooner. You're allowed to want something deeper. You're allowed to miss someone and still let them go. And you're allowed to walk away, not because you don't love them, but because you finally remembered how to love yourself. That's not failure. That's freedom. And it's the most honest thing I've ever done.